Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, dear participants from far away and from closer by, and dear colleagues and friends. Together with Maite Marciano and Anna Street, I would like to welcome you very much to this, our symposium, Thinking Through Tragedy and Comedy, Performance, Philosophy, and the Future of Genre.
This is the first panel session, and it will be a roundtable discussion with four very interesting speakers, and I'm sure we'll have a great conversation once we've gone through all of their presentations. This roundtable discussion has the title, How Do Tragedy and Comedy Make or Unmake, and slash, I'm not quite sure what the slash signifies, but the world.
To be discussed.
Yes, to be discussed. I'd just like to say a couple of things about that title, maybe as a sort of a kind of framing of this discussion, and particularly noting the word "the world" in the context of this. So a couple of sort of opening remarks. In his thesis on the theatre, Alain Badiou proclaims the theatre to be the apex of art. It is, he says, a public illumination of history and life. And in relation to this task of illuminating history and life, both comedy and tragedy for him are assigned their respective roles.
For Aristotle, who profoundly shaped the European discourse on art, tragedy is fundamentally a reality conceived according to the logos. It is paralogical. Although it cannot be pure logos, its value consists of proximity to it.
I'm not talking about this time not about something global, universal. I go to German theater history. And as was announced already this morning, when Matthias Dreyer mentioned it, I'm talking about Einer schläft. But first, I want to start with some remarks on the choric theater that sprang up with quite a number of new forms in the 1990s. And some of them recalls, in a way, such movements that we had in the beginning of the 20th century, like the pageantry movement in England, Reinhardt's Theatre of the 5,000, and the mass spectacles in almost all European and also in the United States country between the wars.
We've discussed in multiple ways yesterday and today how the categories of the comic and the tragic, or comedy and tragedy, may or may not overlap or condition each other, are or are not well and truly separate, or are not Western-centered concepts and practices. And be that all as it may, you know, it gets so complicated that you almost daren't say one or the other. I've been wondering how this question, how comedy and tragedy perform philosophical thought, how the question itself might be translated into how happiness and sadness, or laughter and tears, as it was framed yesterday, may perform, that is, also provoke or inform or perforate philosophical thought.
What I want to present tonight is the relation between tragedy, especially Euripides, and Greek sophistry, especially Gorgias. And this comes out of teaching, again, out of what Joyce would have called work in pre-gross. And I prepared the talk for an event in Paris 3 weeks ago that was on the word non, nine. And so that's why I begin. But I think it will make sense in this context. I hope it will make sense in this context. So the full title is Mais. Mais, on Gorgias' negation of philosophy and the appropriation of sophistry in the antithetical language of Attic tragedy.